Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits eastern states of Jharkhand and West Bengal, launches a slew of development projects. Iran votes for new parliament, litmus test for the clerical establishment's popularity. Hundreds gather for Alexei Navalny's funeral in Moscow. Ceremony takes place under heavy security. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in the second leg of his visit to three eastern states, visited West Bengal today. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi inaugurated multiple developmental projects in Arambagh town of West Bengal. The projects cater to sectors like rail, ports, oil pipeline, LPG supply and wastewater treatment. He inaugurated Indian Oil's 518-kilometer Haldia-Barauni crude oil pipeline, developed at a cost of over 2,700 crore rupees. Prime Minister also inaugurated several projects to strengthen the infrastructure at Kolkata's Shyama Prasad Mukherjee port. He also inaugurated several rail projects worth over 2,600 crore rupees and three projects related to wastewater treatment and sewage. Addressing the gathering in West Bengal on Friday, Prime Minister Modi said more people have come out of poverty in the last 10 years. He stressed that the efforts of the centre, the life of the common man, is becoming easier.
बीते 10 वर्षों में देश के 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। ये दिखाता है कि हमारी सरकार की दिशा सही है, नीतियां सही है, निर्णय सही है और उसका मूल कारण नीयत सही है.
Earlier, Prime Minister also visited the state of Jharkhand. During his visit, PM inaugurated several development projects worth over 35,700 crore rupees in Jharkhand Sindri. The projects cater to fertilizer, rail, power and coal sectors. Prime Minister inaugurated the Sindri fertilizer plant of Hindustan Fertilizer and Chemicals Limited to the nation. He also inaugurated Unit 1 of North Karanpura Super Thermal Power Project in Chatra village of the state. Prime Minister flagged off three trains as well. These include Deoghar-Dibrugarh train service, MEMU train service between Tatanagar and Badampahar, and long-haul freight train from Shivpur station. In a recent announcement, SBI researchers revealed that India's poverty rate declined to 4.5 to 5% in 2022-23. According to the data from the new Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, indicates a notable decline in rural poverty, dropping to 7.2% from 25.7% in 2011-12. Similarly, urban poverty has seen a substantial decrease, now standing at 4.6% from a decade ago. The data reflects a positive trend in India's economic development, indicating improved living standards and a reduction in poverty levels across the country. Reforms in complex and high-stakes sectors like space are often characterized by their technical intricacies and significant investments they require, both in terms of time and resources. The recent amendment in the foreign direct investment policy by the Union Cabinet are set to revolutionize the space sector in the country. However, the true value of these reforms unfold over the long term. These changes can lead to increased collaboration, transfer of knowledge and technology, and infusion of capital, all of which are essential for the sector's growth. The Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, released after more than a decade, offers a valuable insight into shifting consumption patterns of Indians. India's expenditure on food has fallen to less than 50% of the total consumption expenditure in rural India for the first time. Spending less on food translates into higher spending in other categories. The survey demonstrates that rural livelihoods have improved, especially for lowest income classes, which implies government policy initiatives to enhance rural incomes have worked to an extent. Being the fastest growing economy, India remains at a focal point. The development of real estate assets is fundamental to the economy and one of the biggest contributors to India's growth. As the standard of living continues to improve, and that is reflected in the increase in per capita income from $1,500 to $2,400, with people getting access to basic necessities including housing, education, healthcare, food security. All these segments together contribute significantly to India's GDP. Indian Railway is undergoing a transformation with plans to revamp more than 550 railway stations across 27 states and 300 districts. The transformation of Indian Railways is a microcosm of larger change underway in the country. Recently, Prime Minister Modi laid the foundation for over 550 Amrit Bharat stations across the country. The scheme focuses on upgrading station structures, promoting multimodal connectivity, providing facilities for individuals with disabilities, and implementing sustainable and eco-friendly solutions. On to some other news now. Iran has begun voting for new parliament on Friday. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was the first to cast his vote. Polling has been scheduled to last for about 10 hours. The ballots will mostly be counted manually, and partial results may be announced on the 2nd of March. The voting is seen as a litmus test for the clerical establishment's popularity amid growing discontent over economic, political, and social strains. Iran's clerical rulers are seeking a big turnout to shore up their legitimacy, damaged after months of mass protest ignited by the death in custody of a young woman in 2022. Imprisoned Nobel Peace Prize laureate Narges Mohammadi, a women's rights advocate, has called the elections a sham. On the same day, Iran is also holding elections to pick 88 members of the powerful clerical body known as the Assembly of Experts, which is tasked with appointing or dismissing the Supreme Leader. The Interior Ministry said over 15,000 candidates will run for the 290-seat parliament. Partial results may appear by Saturday.
Both are friends and people who are interested in the Iranian nation as well as their ill-wishers. From all sides, the observer of the issue of our country and the observer of our dear nation. Pay attention to this. Make your friends happy and disappoint the ill-wishers.
In the latest from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia on Thursday released video of its forces capturing a new position in Ukraine's Robotyne town in Zaporizhia. Russian ministry said the army had taken control of the village of Petrovskoye in the direction of Avdiivka, occupying a more favorable position. Meanwhile, Ukraine has claimed striking down a Russian fighter jet in the east. The country's forces also carried out strikes on 8 Russian military personnel and equipment concentration areas.
Все зависит еще от профессионализма коллектива.
Meanwhile, Ukraine has significantly increased its use of domestic-made military equipment as Kiev aims to become a more self-sufficient amid faltering Western military aid. The Deputy Defense Minister also called for Kiev's foreign partners to boost investment and participation in joint production with Ukrainian companies. Ukraine has signed dozens of contracts for joint production or technology exchanges with Western allies. Russia has denied any plans to deploy nuclear weapons in space, and its defense minister has refuted U.S. claims that Russia was developing a nuclear capability, for space. Although President Vladimir Putin told Russia's Security Council that neutralization of threats in space must remain in spotlight for the nation, earlier on Thursday, Putin, in his annual State of the Nation address in Moscow, warned that any escalation by NATO could trigger the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. On the other side, the funeral of late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is being held in Moscow today. Kremlin said any unsanctioned gatherings near the church is a violation of law. Police officers are also patrolling the cemetery where over 1,000 people have gathered to bid farewell to Navalny. Navalny died on February 16th in an Arctic penal colony where he was serving sentences totaling more than 30 years. Polish farmers on Friday protested on the border of a motorway between Budzisko village in Poland and Kalvarja city in Lithuania against imports of Ukrainian grain through the Baltic country. Farmers brought lorries to a site adjacent to a main motorway connecting Poland and Lithuania. Banners aimed against European Green Deal and against import of agricultural produce from Ukraine were displayed on the lorries. Veteran left-wing politician George Galloway was elected as the new lawmaker of the British northwestern town of Rochdale on Friday. Galloway bagged 12,335 votes in comparison to over 6,600 for second place David Tully, an independent candidate. Galloway's win highlights the division in the UK over Israel-Hamas conflict as he ran a pro-Palestinian campaign to win over Rochdale's Muslim community.
A landslide, a shifting of the tectonic plates in scores of parliamentary constituencies, beginning here in the Northwest, in the West Midlands, in London, from Ilford to Bethnal Green and Bow. Labour is on notice that they have lost the confidence of millions of their voters who loyally and traditionally voted for them generation after generation.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Republican frontrunner Donald Trump visited the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas on Thursday. The duo visited the border as the migrant issue takes center stage among voters, with the city of Eagle Pass being a flashpoint in the debate. Biden, in his speech, condemned Republican lawmakers for rejecting efforts to strengthen immigration policies, while Trump chose inflammatory language to describe the border issue and slam his rival's policies.
Here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Let's remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. We work for the American people.
Now the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime, but that's a little bit long, so we'll just leave it. But every time you hear the term migrant crime, you know where that comes from.
As the U.S. presidential candidates gear up for elections this year, the contenders are leaving no stone unturned to woo the voters. Republican candidate Nikki Haley will be holding a campaign event in Washington, D.C. on Friday as the U.S. capital city holds presidential primary. Haley has lost every nominating contest so far to her rival, former U.S. President Donald Trump. Kate Fisher gets us more from Washington.
Well, Nikki Haley may not yet have won any of the Republican nominating contests in the race for the presidential nomination, but she is still continuing her campaign. And on Friday, she'll appear at an event in America's capital, Washington, D.C., as the city's Republicans begin voting in their primary, which ends on Sunday evening. analysts say that the capital could offer her the best chance of winning a primary. The primary takes place in the run-up to Super Tuesday, when 15 states will hold Republican presidential contests on March the 5th, the most of any day on the primary calendar. Haley's always said that she would compete on Super Tuesday, but it's unclear what she'll do if she continues to lose to Trump. She's refused to publicly commit to anything beyond then. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
The United States Senate has passed a short-term spending package to avoid a government shutdown. The bill, that is fourth such stopgap measure, was approved in a bipartisan 77 to 13 votes. It will help in running of some federal government agencies through March 8th and others through March 22nd, preventing a shutdown that would have kicked in on Saturday. The bill will now be sent for final approval to President Biden, as the funding will prevent disruption to numerous government functions. Meta is going to discontinue a tab on Facebook which promotes news in Australia. The decision pits Meta against the Australian government, which under a 2021 law has the power to appoint a mediator who determines how much big tech firms pay for news links. Time for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Massive fire in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka kills at least 46 people, dozens injured. Explosion at a cafe in India's Bengaluru, several injured in the explosion. And Gita Mahotsav kickstarts in Sri Lanka. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. A massive fire at a 7-story building in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, has killed at least 46 people, left dozens injured. According to the fire service officials, the fire originated in a restaurant and quickly spread to other floors. Bangladesh's Health Minister, Samantha Lal Sen, told reporters after visiting Dhaka Medical College Hospital that the injured are admitted with severe burns or in critical condition. A 5-member committee has been formed to investigate the incident. Several people are reportedly injured after a blast took place at a famous eatery in Whitefield area of South Indian city of Bengaluru. Shattered glass and furniture were seen strewn on the floor of the cafe. An NIA team and fire brigade team reached the spot and launched an investigation into the incident. Meanwhile, police have confirmed that the blast was not a LPG cylinder blast. Abu Dhabi has opened doors of the first Hindu stone temple to devotees on Friday. Visitors are now welcome to experience the temple's serene atmosphere, intricate architecture, and engage in prayer and meditation. The Middle East's first traditional stone temple marks a significant milestone in the region's cultural landscape. The temple's inaugural ceremony was held on February 14th. That proved to be a testament of enduring friendship between India and the UAE. The 3-day
now, and you can see that we have 7 spires with the 7 the history of the particular deities carved all throughout, the mandir. Like for Krishna Bhagavan, there's a Ramayana, Krishna Avatar is carved, and then for Ram Bhagavan, Ramayana is carved. So we are thinking that in future, from next Sunday onwards, we'll have the kids who are explaining all the stories to the visitor. So that will be really interesting that they will know our history and our culture.
The 3-day International Gita Mahotsav commenced today at Nilam Pokuna Theatre premises in Sri Lanka's Colombo. The festival that celebrates the teachings of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is being held for the first time in the island nation. The festival features competitions of Gita chanting, Rangoli art and fancy dress, in addition to several cultural performances. Explaining the purpose of the festival, Sri Lankan minister said the festival will promote religious harmony.
We see that erosion of the cultural dynamics, especially of what has been there with us, the traditions, norms, so the values, they are being eroded. So we want to implant them. We want to bring it back to the society through Bhagavad Gita and the teachings. We thought of making this event to bring the religious harmony among different faiths and religions.
India and Sri Lanka signed a contract for hybrid renewable energy systems project in Colombo. The agreement will center around 3 island projects of Delft, Dan Naptu and Anal Latvu Islands of Jaffna. The initiative signs with India-Sri Lanka Economic Partnership Vision, highlighting the energy sector's priority with generous assistance from India. The project underscores the broader $5 billion development partnership portfolio, showcasing ongoing collaborations and future endeavors in the realm of energy and beyond. The signing ceremony, attended by High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, and Sri Lanka's Minister Indika Anuruddha, emphasizes India's commitment to bilateral energy partnerships and human-centric development. To boost self-reliance in defence and Make in India initiative, Defence Ministry has signed 5 major capital acquisition contracts worth over 39,000 crore rupees today in New Delhi. The contracts were exchanged in the presence of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Out of the 5 contracts, one was with HAL for procurement of aero engines for MiG-29 aircraft, 2 with Larsen & Toubro Limited for procurement of close-in weapon system and procurement of high-power radar, and 2 with BrahMos Aerospace for procurement of BrahMos missiles and procurement of shipborne BrahMos system for Indian Defence Forces.
Today, Larsen & Toubro has signed 2 contracts with the Ministry of Defence. These are for equipment to be supplied to the Indian Air Force. The 2 contracts include a high-power radar, which will be deployed at different locations by the Air Force for identifying aerial targets at very long distances. We have also signed a contract for the close-in weapon systems, and the close-in weapon systems are used to protect vital assets of the country. These are very advanced equipment, high technology equipment, which have been developed within the country and which will be produced here.
India's Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, L. Murugan, has said the centre has allocated Rs 2,500 crore for strengthening broadcasting infrastructure, especially along the borders. He reviewed the functioning of All India Radio and Doordarshan in Southern Zone at a meeting in Chennai on Friday. In his inaugural address, he said the initiative is being undertaken under Broadcasting Infrastructure Development Fund under Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. He said it is imperative for reaching out to people across the length and breadth of the country with right content, including news and entertainment, keeping in mind the interest of the country that reflects its unity, diversity and development. The minister also asked each station to prepare a roadmap for efficient coverage of the forthcoming Lok Sabha elections. He stressed the need to motivate first-time voters to fully participate in the electoral process and also ensure 100% voting. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today. Niti Aayog member Dr. B.K. Paul today launched the National Birth Defects Awareness Month 2024 at a function in New Delhi, marking the beginning of a crucial month dedicated to raising awareness. India's Defence Research and Development Organisation successfully tested Very Short-Range Air Defence System missile against high-speed unmanned aerial targets under different interception scenarios off the coast of India's Odisha. India is likely to experience above normal minimum temperatures in March, India's state-run weather office said on Friday, raising concerns about country's critical wheat crop. Indian Coast Guard commandos and vessels carry out surveillance missions around Gulf of Kutch, where around 70% of crude oil imported by India arrives to be processed. Indian Coast Guard is upgrading its presence to counter any security threats and also to counter any pollution incident. In sports, the Hero Indian Open, the country's national open and flagship golf tournament, is returning to usher in a new era in Indian golf with an enhanced prize purse and several first-time incentives. The 2024 edition of Hero Indian Open will be held between March 28th to 31st this year in Gurugram on the outskirts of New Delhi. The tournament, now in its 57th edition, will carry a record prize purse of $2.25 million, will be a part of Asian Swing, bringing added benefits for the swing champion. Leading the field will be former champion Anirban Lahiri, who won in 2015, Shiv Kapoor, three-time DP World Tour winner, Nicolas Colsaerts of Belgium, and new exciting talent Kazumi Kaburi of New Zealand. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.